ago, I was out in Flagstaff, Arizona for the Overland West Expo, which I did a video on because it was a badass expo. I saw a lot of really cool stuff. I saw a few things that were just off the charts, innovating and really different. And that's what I look for. I look for different. I look for the things that really stand out, the innovators. And one of the companies that I saw out there, a off-road trailer manufacturer, which are relatively new to the scene. I believe they came out in 2020, and then in 2021 they actually built one of these trailers after years of research went into designing it. These guys are a group of engineers, and they came up with a trailer called the Purpose. And I saw the trailer out at Overland West. Excuse me, I have something stuck in my eye here. And I was absolutely impressed with this thing. You may recall from prior videos, I always talk about, I look for companies that innovate. Companies that just look to create something that is better. There are so many companies out there that are Me Too companies. So they go to market with a trailer, and from the surface, it looks a little different. But once you start looking at the components, these things are all kind of modular in the sense of they're just picking up additional parts and kind of throwing them in a hat and seeing what works. And while they will work and there's functionality, there's just not that continuity. There's not that symmetry or simpatico. I'm trying to think of a good word where everything just fits, and it just seems like it was designed for that. All right, so the trailer that we're going to go see today, as I understand, this trailer is actually heading up to Utah this evening, and so I had a small little sliver of time to be able to get up there and see this thing, and so I am really excited about this. Guys, I've been waiting months, ever since I saw this thing at Overland West. I've been waiting for the opportunity to get up there and see how these things are built, and so I was able to get a okay from this company that they're going to show me, and I can bring my cameras along so I can obviously bring you guys along, of how these things are constructed, because from my experience, there's a lot of trailers that are kind of box style like this. This thing, it has a rectangle shape to it. But what a lot of these companies are doing is they're just going out there and buying, construction or contractor trailers and just remodeling them. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's a market for everybody out there. But this company does it different, and so they fabricate literally everything that goes into these things, and this thing, it really shows. I was super impressed when I saw this trailer at Overland West. So anyways, that's what I'm doing here today. So I'm gonna kill the camera here, and then we'll jump in when I get on location, and we'll lift up the curtain and see what these guys have. All right, guys, here we are. This bad boy right here is the one that I saw at Overland West. And I'm here with Travis and Elizabeth with RKS.
Welcome,
guys, I appreciate you allowing me to come up to your factory. And before we get into the good stuff, which is right here, if you can do us a favor and share with the listeners a little bit about your backgrounds and how that led into RKS Off-Road.
Of course. Pleasure. So we are both from the automotive industry. I had the pleasure to work with the big names like BMW, Audi, Ferrari, Daimler Chrysler, PSA, you name it. And you just learn how quality should be done and how it's supposed to be done in the automotive and in manufacturing. And then we started to rent out RVs, and we saw there's an opportunity for just to bring that in, technology and quality.
Wow.
So that's the short version.
Yeah, we started renting RVs back in 2014. We had a rental business for 7 years. And when you're renting out RVs, you see the torture that they go through, especially as a rental unit. So you're constantly repairing them. And so we have the quality background of the automotive industry, and so what we wanted to do is merge those two together, bring quality to the trailer industry.
So you guys moved from renting out RVs, but there had to have been a pivotal point where you guys woke up one morning and like, let's design one of the most badass trailers anybody's going to see. What was that pivotal moment? What was the original inspiration from moving from renting these things out to building this?
Comes back to the quality. We just got tired of fixing those. We just wanted to prove that it can be done. It's not an or question, it's an and question. You can be in the recreationer and have quality. So knowing the things we wanted to do from the manufacturing and quality technology side. We just woke up one morning and figured, let's do this.
And there was an overlap. We were still renting out trailers at the time that we were building out our first concepts. So there was an overlap there, but now that we're in manufacturing, the rental business is closed up.
Wow. So you dropped some big names that you guys have worked with here. As I understand, 2021, now you guys was the first year that you actually made one of these, right?
No, in 2020 we
2020, okay.
We did it through the pandemic. So while the pandemic was going on, we were, a couple of us still going over in here and just starting to build that concept.
Wow.
But we entered manufacturing in 2021. So we have a few dozen of these out there today.
Wow, so you guys have spent quite a bit of time engineering and the R&D going into these, correct?
And we use all the tools and techniques and methodologies we are used to from the automotive. So
that's awesome.
We can show you some tools we are applying and utilizing, and would be a pleasure to show you what can be done.
Well, heck yes. Now guys, one of the things at Overland West, as I was talking a moment ago, one of the things when I go to these expos, I'm always looking for companies that bring that innovation to the market, companies that are zagging where everybody else is zigging. And the unfortunate fact about it, you don't see as much innovation these days as I would like to see. But when I went to Overland West, there was one company, there was one trailer that really stood out, and it's what's standing behind me. Now, what's behind me is not the exact same trailer, because this one's actually was just built for a client, and this thing is heading off 2 days from now, so I feel very fortunate that they allowed me to come up here to see this. But one of the things right behind this door is the key that I think really, when I saw this, it was not this wow, it was this wow. And Travis, if you can do me a favor, do me the honors, let's crack this thing open, and if you can share, we'll kind of break this video up into some segments, pointing out some of this really key points of this trailer that I think are absolutely amazing. And if you guys don't mind, as I understand, you have some demos that we can see that kind of follow through with what's behind here, a few things like that. So we'll play show and tell, and then you can show the mechanics behind it?
Yeah, sounds great. We set up some test benches so we can show you some of the mechanics behind it.
This is going to get pretty awesome, guys. All right, let's crack open this door. And boom.
Awesome.
What are we looking at here?
So, Alex, we're looking at a full bathroom. And that's very unique for a trailer this size. We wanted it to be nice and compact, but still have the home features, home comforts. So you can see that is a full-fledged toilet there. That is not some cheap plastic. That is ceramic, sir. Nothing like a good throne. And you can see that there's lots of room in this bathroom because this is also the shower area. And the cool thing with the shower is it's placed so that you can also hook it up to have an outside shower.
Interesting. So now we have a full ceramic toilet in there. Now this looks pretty tall. How tall is it in there?
I'm 6'2", Alex, and I have no problem with space. Here, let me show you. In here, I can put my hand all the way up to the roof, all the way up to the wrist, man.
That's pretty tall.
Yeah, and lots of open space. You open up these zippers. We have 4 sides that open up. Plenty of aeration.
So, talking from a design standpoint, Elizabeth was talking about a lot of engineering went into these trailers here. The bathroom here, I mean, this doesn't look like an afterthought. This looks like for me, this looks like a main focal point of this trailer itself. What went into, from an engineering standpoint, into designing this bathroom?
I tell you, we designed everything from the ground up. So we started off fresh. We knew the attributes we needed to have. So this had to have a bathroom with a full-on shower. One of the requirements that Elizabeth actually brought forward to our engineering team, it had to have 2 women in stilettos being able to take a shower here. So that went into the requirements. So it's impenetrable from a floor standpoint, and you can fit 2 people.
It's funny that we're talking about Overland West and talking about my experience searching for innovation. And running a company like 4-Wheel Drive Talk, of course, I'm I hear and see a lot of things that most people don't. And as you guys probably know, which has probably led into the designing and the importance of having this here, one of the biggest complaints with people getting into overlanding or camping is the lack of restroom facilities. Yeah. And I know, for example, my wife, she doesn't like to go camping with my son and I, mainly because she doesn't want to use the public restrooms. And while I did went out and grab a portable toilet, she still is not sold on that. So this is really, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is that innovation that I was looking for when I went to the show. The fact that you have a full-on, now this is a ceramic toilet. Now is the waste, is it collecting in the toilet, or is there a tank, or what's happening with things here?
From a toilet perspective, this is all about being off-grid and off-road and out with your family. So, right, when you just talked about having your wife go, that was a key characteristic of the design, right? We wanted to make sure that a husband, wife, guy, girlfriend, whatever, could come out and be comfortable. And so it's not about digging a ditch in the ground like we're used to. So it was about being off-grid and being able to go off-road. To be off-grid for a longer period of time, we selected a toilet that actually allows you to recycle the shower water, which saves you a ton of water. That's about 30% of your water use.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. So do you have, is there a way that we can, you have a demo set up for this that we can get an idea of how the mechanics of this work, is that correct?
That is, yeah, Alex. It's the best way to see how it really comes together.
Excellent. Can we take a look at that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. All right, Travis, so this is, when you said you had a demo, you weren't kidding. This is actually pretty cool. So now this is the frame, obviously, with no walls. I see 4 tanks here. I see the toilet sitting here, a ceramic toilet. Yeah. So I cannot wait to see what do each of these, if you could, talk to us a little bit about what each of these tanks do, and are you going to be able to demo this thing?
Yeah, we could probably demo it. It looks like they have it all plugged in ready for you, Alex. So first I'll talk about the tanks. The front tank is a gray water tank. It's a 25-gallon gray water tank. It's smaller than the black water tank, and I'll go through that when we talk about the toilet. The white tanks here and the fore and aft of the axle are actually our water tanks. And the reason we do this is for balance. We want great towability, so as you use water, that you don't throw off the balance of the trailer while you're towing it. So these tanks are connected together. They have a ball valve attached to it so that when you hook up your vehicle, the ball valve closes so that you don't get any water transfer between the tanks. So it gives you the best ride. And then our black water tank is what we call the final dump tank, is in the middle, and it's right over the axles.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this one's 60 gallons, and the fresh water tanks are 35 gallons each. So you have 70 gallons of fresh water in this little package.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of water.
You can last a long time out there, huh?
Indeed. Well, that's really quite ingenious how you guys set that up. And so, because I know, obviously, water can be quite heavy, and if you have a single tank, that water sloshing around can really offset things quite a bit.
It can, and the thing is with having the 70 gallons of capacity, it doesn't mean you have to fill it up to capacity. Mm-hmm. It just gives you the ability to. So if you're going out for a weekend, maybe you just fill up your tanks halfway. But then maybe you want to go out for an entire week, you have the capacity to fill it up all 70 gallons. And because our trailer's so lightweight, you can still tow it with your Jeep that you have outside there, Alex.
So I know we're going to be talking with electronics with Elizabeth after this here, but are there, if you're filling up the tanks, is there some sort of monitor that shows how much or what the levels are in each of these tanks?
There is, and actually what's cool with our monitors is that they're actual float sensors. So they're specialized float sensors, and so they're very precise.
Got it. Which, it's funny that you bring that up, because I know a lot of the tanks, they have just sensors in there like a quarter, halfway, 3/4, and so while you can still kind of gauge it, it's not really precise. So that's really slick that you actually have that level of precision inside these tanks as well.
Yeah, we have analog gauges you'll be able to see in the kitchen area that actually has it to, I think it's about 8 to 10 lights that show you what levels they are.
Super cool. Now, the toilet, the water that's coming into the toilet itself, where's that pulling out of? Is it pulling out of the fresh?
It can pull from the fresh or pull from the gray tank, and that's why the gray tank is actually smaller, because we didn't need it to be so large. The gray tank is used to actually allow you to recycle. So We have a switch here that says gray or fresh. And so you can select what you want. If you, for instance, emptied out your gray tank, then you can just select fresh and still flush the toilet.
Gotcha. Now, by default, does it default to one or the other?
No, you have this selection right next to the toilet, and so you just decide which way you want it to go. So if you have it on gray and it runs out, just switch it over to fresh and flush.
Fantastic. And that container, that module right there with the purple stuff, what is that again?
This is a conditioner, and this allows you to adjust how much conditioner you want to use. This allows for gray water, as you may know, it can smell just as bad as black, actually. When you're dumping that stuff, it has a smell. This actually siphons it into the flush water. So when that water is sitting in your toilet, it's already conditioned.
Very interesting. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now, are you able to demo this? Now, I see another button or something right there with the yellow, and what does that do?
Okay. So this is an important one too. So what this allows us to do, and you probably heard it a little bit, you see some water going in there.
Interesting.
The reason for this button is, let's say you're taking a shower and your gray tank is actually full, and so it's actually backing up. You push that button, and what it does is it actually takes the water through the toilet and flushes it into the black tank. So you're actually emptying out your gray tank to your black through your toilet.
Wow.
It's like cleaning your toilet at the same time.
You guys left no stone left unturned.
We have some really ingenious people here. We have a great team. This is all put together by an electrical guy, and he's phenomenal with how he put everything together.
So I have a question for you. So, for example, we do quite a bit of cold weather expeditions and so forth, and obviously cold weather can get below freezing. Now, one of my first questions is I see 4 ginormous tanks on this thing here.
Yeah.
I see a porcelain toilet here. So what happens if you go out in a situation and it gets down below freezing and so forth? Do you have, I mean, there's a lot of possible exposure here to water. Are things going to freeze, or is there any sort of insulation that's taking place?
So if they get the cold weather package, there's already an underside plate that protects you to some degree, but that's aluminum, all right? But aluminum for a reason, to be strong and everything. But when you do the cold weather package, we actually insulate between that plate and all the tanks, and every tank gets its own heat pad. And the heat pad is actually pressed up with the insulation. So, and you have multiple layers of insulation. You have foam and fiberglass being used as insulation around. So you get like an R13 to an R20 value underneath.
When I saw your trailer out at Overland West, I remember there was a lot of things that really impressed me. And it's funny because I just used the line, "You guys left no stone left unturned," and I feel the need that I need to say that again. That is really, really impressive. Now, speaking of R factor, the walls on here, as we've walked around your factory, I noticed these are pretty thick walls here. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the walls?
Yeah, we'd love to. I think Elizabeth is going to walk you through, and we may even actually build up a couple of them just so you can see how they all slide in.
That'd be fantastic. All right, Brian, hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule here. So far I've been talking to Elizabeth and Travis and really getting a great kind of walk around of how these trailers are put together. Now, I understand you have an important role with these trailers as well. Can you share with the listeners a little bit what you do here?
Yeah, so I'm the design lead here, right? So a lot of the conceptual things and that kind of foundation starts from my ideas and things like that. We all work together. But yeah, so what my philosophy is good design is good business.
We have this ginormous frame here in front of us here, and I'm dying to know, I mean, this looks like a beast. I'd love to hear from you how these things are put together, and specifically, what are we looking at here?
So what we're looking at is 6 inches of aluminum, right? So we decided a long time ago we weren't going to have any wood in our product. Mm-hmm. If we're going to go off-road or we're going to go off-grid, it needs to last. Mm-hmm. It's got to last the weather, it's got to last all the elements, right? But we also wanted to package everything. So I think there's some talk about how we package and how we get more water than anybody else. Well, how do you do that? Thicker frame, right? Allows you to, thicker but not heavier, right? Because mm-hmm. that's why we went with aluminum, and we have the I-beams and the tubes, and that allows us to put in our tanks. And what we do is we CNC all of our running lines and everything, so we're all well organized. They go together. Everyone is built the same way, right? We grommeted all those holes. So, when you're off-roading, stuff that likes to rub, right? We want to make sure anything doesn't come apart while you're running.
Oh, so am I understanding that every hole that you guys put in, you're actually putting actual grommets in each one of these things?
If we're putting plumbing or electrical through, yes.
Wow. Yeah, because it's funny that you bring that up when you get, especially off grid, and you're on a 2-lane dirt road, and this thing's bouncing all over the place. It's funny. A little friction starts, and that can be absolutely brutal.
Right, and you know what? That's the thing. When you're off road, you don't want things to go wrong.
No.
If you're close to a shop, that's one thing, but a lot of these people take it pretty far up into the woods.
Brian, so if we can shift gears here a little bit, if you can share with me now, I see some water lines here. I see some additional pipes here. Can you share with me a little bit of the thought that went into how these lines are running here? And then we'll probably close off right near the tow hitch. If you can expound a little bit, because that looks pretty interesting how you guys have that set up.
Sure. So, like I said, we have a great CAD system that allows us to organize everything before we actually start building it, right? So all our lines, we determine what height they need to be, so none of our plumbing lines are binding or anything. Mm-hmm. That allows us to go front to back. They're all pushed to the side, so you can service your tanks, right? Because serviceability is important. If something does go wrong, you want to make sure you can get in there, and it's just the beauty of the whole thing. It's what you don't see on our trailer sometimes is the magic, right? Because none of this is ever going to be seen, but we want to make sure it works, right? And we want to make sure it's organized, and we want to make sure you service it.
A lot of the thought that you're talking about here is from making these future-proof. In case of emergency does take place, items can easily get accessed for service or to be repaired. Am I understanding you correctly?
That is correct. So, we don't plan on things going wrong, but if you do, we want to make sure that it's convenient that you can actually go in and service these.
Well done. Let's go up to this tow hitch, or this area up here on the front here. Brian, this thing looks like this is tank proof. Can you talk to me a little bit about the construction of this segment right here?
Engineers like to talk about triangulation. Well, this is living proof of triangulation, right? This is where all these surfaces come together. We CNC the whole of this that drives this through, and then we tie it all together. We wanted to make sure that part of the hitch was never going to move.
Now, speaking of which, would you happen to know the tongue weight of this when it's all said and done?
Yeah, it's about 386 pounds when you're loaded.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we wanted to make sure you had a great driving experience, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is about balance, tongue weight, that all comes into play.
Wow, that is some very impressive welds, and I really love how this component is actually going into the frame itself. Now, is there a strength advantage to having this main pipe going into the frame opposed to just simply being mounted below? Or
Sure, you get a lot more welding surfaces on there, right? And then you're actually pushing against material, right? Instead of just going through something or staying on top of it, it's going to have to try to move this whole thing if it's going to move. And then this back plate prevents it from twisting.
Well, Brian, hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and sharing this with me here today. Again, what a treat this has been to come up here after seeing this trailer out at Overland West. Of course, out there, you see the finished product. You see the book by its cover. Coming here to your factory is quite a treat, because now I get to see behind the curtain and share with our audience specifically how these things are made. And yeah, this has been quite a treat. Again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth, this tour of your factory has been absolutely amazing. And so now we're coming up to one of my favorite parts as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, not to take anything away from the toilet that you guys have in here, but being a photographer, electronics always fascinates me, because if you haven't noticed, I have cameras all over the place here. So that being said, I know when I go off grid, power and having reliable power is really important. Now, I was just looking inside there. I see a lot of blinking lights in there. And so if you can do me a great favor and share with me, I'd love to know a little bit behind the setups in these things and how this particular trailer, as it's heading off, what it's equipped with, and let's get on with it.
Perfect. Okay, so if you're off-grid and off-roading, the last thing you need is your power management to fail. So coming back to our quality approach, we want to make sure we have only the best components in the trailer. Therefore, we love our Victron systems. Everything is lined up here nicely. Standard, you get a 100 amp battery. This customer wanted 2, which is totally fine, so we're going to mount it already for him. You have here the inverter which is really nice. It's one of the best inverters out there. You want to make sure that it's really lightweight, reliable, featuring again your off-roading design and your desire. You have here then the inverter for the AC battery, also for the AC. We have an zero breeze AC, lightweight, portable, really awesome. You can also hook it up on the battery if you want to. It's really a nice feature. And then you have all your fuse boxes and the servo unit in the back there. Again, one of the Victron units coming with the display. So electronic is very neat, it's powerful, it's high-end quality, the automotive uses it, and I would love to show you how we actually set it up so you get a feel for what goes in there.
Wonderful. And just one quick question here. So this particular unit is heading out with 200 amp hour or dual,
correct,
100 amp hour lithium batteries, correct?
Correct.
Now, off-grid, let's say you're going off-grid for a handful of days and so forth. You have you have the ability to charge these up through solar on this as well, correct?
That's correct. So the units come standard solar ready, and if the customer wants, then we add on a solar panel. So totally works either way.
Well done. Now, is it safe to assume the solar panels will be mounted on the roof, or where do they typically go on a trailer like this?
So that depends on where the customer wants to. You can mount it on the roof. As you already know, we have our D-slots all over the place, so you can either attach it to the roof, or you can get a special swing out mount fixture where you basically have it then on the side. So depending on where you want to. Or you just mount it on the roof, hook it up, and put it wherever the sun is.
Super cool. Now, you have a demo station of the electronics to share with me as well, right?
Yes, and I would love to show you how it works.
Awesome. Let's go take a look at that.
Thank you. Okay, so here we are. This is our pre-assembly station for all the electronics. As you can see, it's all nice and neat. So every wire gets its grommet, so it's not rubbing or causing any damage. We want to make sure it's all safe. Everything has its place. So one of the lessons learned, we did come up and see from our RV renting time was you have a cable salad, and then you have to figure out which cable goes where if I have to repair something, which is not an exciting activity. So everything gets nice and neat in the back, wired and assembled, so you have your wire harness and that's it. Just because it's functional doesn't mean it has to be ugly. So Brian is doing a good job making sure that all components always look good. So you see that underneath the bed, as we just saw in the trailer, we want to make sure it does look good. Plus, it does give enough space for airing out as well, right? The components need some air.
So now, when I was talking to Travis over there, we were talking about the tanks, and we were also talking about gauges that you can monitor. Now, I don't see any gauges here. Where are the gauges that if somebody wants to take a look at the levels in the water tank, where can those gauges be found?
They are in the kitchen, in the back, and let's go there and show you.
Fantastic.
All right, so here we are. Those are the gauges you just asked me about. So you see them with the black, gray, and freshwater tank. Everything is nicely lit up, and it's just easy to see. One of the other things in the RVs we learned, it's complicated, and then you have to figure out, is it full, is it not full, half full, does it work, not work, whatever. So it's really simple. You have your water pump here, you have your overview in how to manage the tanks. That's all nice and neat. You have a really nice sink with the soap dispenser, and I don't know if you know that as well. It's always a pain in whatever, where the soap is then flip-flopping around when you're driving, so no need to do any of that, and it's just there.
Now, is that filtered water out of there?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Look underneath. All the units come with a water filter. We want to make sure you don't need to lug around all the plastic bottles, therefore you can use your water you have in your freshwater tanks. So that's the other thing. I don't know if you noticed. Let's see here. Friction hinges. It's nice, cushiony, so it's not gonna rattle and make all kinds of noises. It's the other thing we always hated going out. It's just noisy and it shakes around. It's really not cool. So
that really
nice and solid.
That is really solid. And I'm noticing there's speakers back here as well.
Correct. So you can blast your music. I don't know if we actually pointed it out. There is a smart TV in there. You can hook up your phone. You can blast your music through the TV, or you just go through the speakers of the radio, either, whatever you want to do. So it works.
Can we talk a little bit about the kit? I mean, this is a massive fridge we're looking at here. How big is this thing?
It's a 96 liter. Truma door zone. And
Wow.
let's see if, yeah, you can open it up this way if you're inside, so you don't need to go outside. And in here, and nobody put in beer, really, we gotta complain about that.
Yeah, we'll probably have to reshoot this video. That is seriously, now is that a fridge freezer or is it a fridge?
It's both. It's door zone. You can go fridge, freezer, you can go just fridge, you can go freezer, whatever you want to do. It's Bluetooth capable, so you can check it out and make sure it's doing whatever you wanted it to do.
Oh, well, okay, so you can monitor it from wherever you're at, even on the roof of this thing.
You can go on the roof and see if your beer or water or whatever is cool.
Wow, that's not to be broken record here, but that is seriously the largest cooler fridge I've seen. That thing is massive. Elizabeth, I'm a big fan of Camp Chef, and this thing looks absolutely stunning. Can you talk a little bit about the stove that's here and how this entire setup works?
Yeah, of course. So that's a 20,000 BTU stove, Camp Chef. Like I said, my engineering requirement was my 20-liter goulash pot cannot last, or cannot take 5 hours to warm up, so it needs to be cranking up quick. And the 20,000 BTU will give you that. So it's a very nice dual burner stove, and we love it. The other thing is this is hooked on the adjustable tray here, so you can actually take it down or up, whatever you want to do, depending on how high you want to cook or not, which is really neat. So then you just flip it up, store it safely, and swing the door basically in there.
Now, looking at this door here, this looks pretty beefy. Now, I know when Travis was talking about the underbelly, you know, he was, I believe it was R13 with the winter package. Yeah. Now, the walls on this, what's the R factor of these, or would you know?
R6.
Wow, is it really? Yeah. Now, I also understand that you guys set up a little demo to see how these walls are put together. Is that correct?
I would love to show you that.
Heck yeah, let's go take a look at that. Okay guys, so now this is getting really slick, because a moment ago you saw what you're seeing here was set up so we could see the 4 tanks and see how the septic system works in this. Now what they've done here is they've put this floor on and they've staged some walls here so we can get a sense of how these things are really framed together. That next evolution of this, from moving from frame to tanks to now the wall, and, or I'm sorry, the floor and the wall.
Right.
Now, Elizabeth, the floors on this and the walls, this is a very interesting material that you guys are using. Can you share with us a little bit more about it?
So those are 1.5-inch composite panels, honeycomb composite panels, sandwiched in fiberglass skins. And the beauty is they are lightweight, they're very durable. That's why we can go on the roof. Our roof has a capacity of 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
So that's why you need those, and they have already the R6 value.
So talking with Brian, we're talking about, he said there's no wood on there because when you're getting off-grid, things can rattle around. So one of the questions in the back of my head right now is I look at this composite material and I'm thinking, how the hell do you bolt this together? Because bolts are going to slowly shimmy around a little bit. So how do you guys do that?
We don't bolt.
I'm sorry, you don't what?
We don't bolt together, so we use adhesive.
Really?
So, yeah, so we have a very good supplier. They support us with the project here with our production, and what they did is we talked and said, hey, listen, this is what we want to do. We want to use those composite, honeycomb composite panels with our aluminum extrusions and frames. What can we do? Because the last thing besides what Brian already pointed out with the falling apart is always that you don't want any penetration through your frame when you go off-roading, right? You go through a river or whatever, the last thing you need is water coming in.
So I'm guessing this stuff's a little bit more, this is not your typical Elmer's glue we're talking about here.
No, it's not. So, you know, using those guns,
Holy smokes.
Those are really good Loctite material. So what it does is, or what it is used for is, instead of welding, we are using those adhesives.
Wow.
So this really replaces welds altogether, and it's meant to do that, which is really cool, very strong. So the bonding properties are awesome. And this guy is used for all the sealants. So it's not only gluing together, it's also sealing. Because again, one of the things you don't want to have is leaking roofs or whatever, right? So having both of those adhesives is just really sweet.
Utilizing this glue has got to be a huge weight savings, correct?
It is.
So now, when we're talking about a lot of these seals here, is there any additional weather sealing that needs to be done to create kind of a Loctite, airtight bond here?
No, let me show you how we apply the sealant,
Well
or
done.
the adhesive, the sealant, and why you don't need anything extra. So this is our panel. You have here the extrusion which goes on top of it. I don't know if you can see that, but there are some step functions. So the moment our guys apply the adhesive in here, the beads, it really rolls in. So both sides you have the step functions, which means it's covered nicely and making sure it's bonded properly and sealed properly. And you can see how everything works here nicely together. So there's no penetration from the outside, there's no leakage issue going forward, and this thing is not breaking apart.
Well done. And I have to be honest with you, Elizabeth, when I originally saw you guys up at Overland West, I thought, because a lot of companies, what they will do that manufacture trailers like this is they will take a prefab box and then they just kind of gut it, like for example, a construction or a contractor's trailer. And they just repurpose it, maybe tighten up the suspension a little bit, run some plumbing in there somehow, and they convert that trailer that was once used for a contractor into something. Seeing this here is quite an eye-opener. So you guys are not using anything that's prefab. You guys are designing everything, and everything has been engineered with a purpose.
That it does, or it did. It's engineered, it's designed, engineered, manufactured in the US with purpose. And for the off-grid, for the communities, freedom for the families. So this is what we are doing. Everything is our design.
This is absolutely badass. Well, this, again,
Thank you.
I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to come up here and be able to see this. And wow. Now, the one question I do have here is, how does something like this tow? Because I know a lot of our audience, when they get a trailer behind their vehicle, one of the big burning questions is, how does it feel on the road?
It's awesome. A lot of people tell us they don't even feel it or realize that they are towing, but I tell you what, why don't you hook it up on your car and let's go.
Heck yeah, let's do it. All right, guys, so I have the RKS Purpose, which is a 2,700 pound dry weight trailer behind me right now. And I have to say, again, I know this is one of the big questions that a lot of you have when you're looking at a trailer, and it really should be something that you take a look at as well. How does it feel? How's it going to tow behind whatever vehicle you have? Now, my Gladiator, which I believe has a tow capacity of 700 or 7,500 pounds, so we are well above what this thing weighs. And I have to say, guys, this feels really good. Today was a fun day, and I'm decided to close off this video here on top of, this thing has, if you haven't noticed here, I'm not just climbing on this, there's an actual purpose-built, no pun intended to the name of this thing, sky deck. Now, as I understand, you can get a bimini top on top of this, and getting on top of this thing is actually quite easy. Now, normally when the bathroom is, the roof is extended on this, you just climb through or climb up here from there. And so whether the ladies are out here sunbathing and us guys are out here drinking our beer, enjoying this view, it is, I mean, this is, we're talking about innovation. We're talking about something that really stands out. And guys, I only meant to spend maybe a couple hours up here today. That's all I had the time for. I've been up here for 4 hours now. That should be testament to, I'm really stinking impressed with this thing here. And this is just another example of how this trailer is so different from some of the other noise that's out in the marketplace. And so, anyway, it's that time of the video, guys, where I'm gonna wrap things up here. So if you could do me a big favor, if you found some value with this video, you see, we put these videos together to help you make educated decisions on what you may want to pick up out in the marketplace. And so if we were successful with that, if you can do me a big favor, hit that like button down below. If you're currently not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And last but not least, so therefore you're notified every time we come out with a video like this, smash, kick that bell, so therefore you're notified. Friends, well, unfortunately for me, I'm gonna have to bring this thing back over to their factory and give it back to them. And so I've had my fun here for 4 hours, and I'm gonna get back to my studio, my nice, honestly, I'd love to be out here all day. I could be out here easily all day in this thing. Honestly, half me wants to go rip it up in Big Bear or someplace really cool with this thing because it would be an absolute blast. But I got to get back to my studio, so I'm going to head off. So you get out there, stay healthy, and find your adventure.